Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of What If Naruto Became the Jonin Sensei of Kashina. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Yo, Naruto said while giving his genin a lazy wave. The blonde was secretly taking a lot of joy in the absolutely bewildered looks he was getting from the three genin who looked like someone had just told them Christmas was cancelled. Naruto-sensei. The three yelled at the same time, causing Naruto to wince a bit at their volume. Man, those three could make some noise if they wanted to. The blonde's face morphed into a heart-warming smile as he looked at the three genin. They really had come a long way since he had first met them. Good job team. You finished the second exam in 1 hour and 17 minutes, that's a new record. Naruto told the three, who smiled brightly, all looking a little abashed at the praise. We're awesome, Datbane. Kushina yelled to the empty room, a million-watt grin plastered over the redhead's face, a sentiment that Naaki seemingly agreed with if his fist pump was anything to go by. Naruto chuckled fondly at his student's enthusiasm, his smile becoming slightly smaller but no less heartwarming. Not that I'm not happy to see you, sensei, but why are you here? And is that Anbu gear? Makoto asked. Naruto mentally praised the black-haired girl, always the sharp one. Well, Makoto, I'm here to tell you about that, Naruto replied, pointing to the poem up on the wall behind him. As well as what happens now, and as for the Anbu gear, I was doing a little self-training to keep my edge and improve some skills that I never really got down. Naruto told his group of genin. It wasn't technically a lie. Naruto did see it as training after all. Makoto nodded before joining the other two genin in their miniature celebration of their awesome. Something that Naruto was in no hurry to stop. They would need fun like this for a little while at least, because the next few days were going to be boring as shit for the three genin. Alright, now you can celebrate later. For now let me go over the poem, in short form naturally. Naruto said after a few minutes, calming his genin down. His genin were so awesome. Who knew he would be such a great sensei? Maybe he should write a self-help book for Jonin. How to train your genin. Naruto was sure it would be a hit. Okay, basically what the poem tells you is that if you have a weak mind but a strong body, then you need to learn more. On the other hand, if you have a strong mind but a weak body, then you should do some more physical training. If you have both a strong mind and body, then you will excel as a shinobi. Naruto finished, gaining a nod from the genin. Now I'm guessing you all want to know what happens next, right? Naruto asked, getting a nod from all three of his students. Okay, the other half pints still have 5 days to get to the tower. You're stuck here, you can't leave because they're gonna need you once everyone's inside. Naruto stated, drawing a predictable groan from his genin team. The blonde's fond smile only increased in size. Also, no training is to conducted while you're inside the tower, the blonde continued, gaining looks of betrayal from Makoto, Kashina and Naaki. Don't give me that, Naruto shot back. You'll need to be in top form if we need to do preliminary rounds. No point in getting all the way here only to have to forfeit because you hurt yourself training before they announce preliminary rounds. The looks of betrayal were wiped off his genin's faces, understanding replacing it. Other than that, my fine midgets, just hang tight and try to have some fun while you're here. I dropped off my TV and the hard drive in your room, so if nothing else you can watch some movies. I'll be sticking around the tower as well, so if you want to talk or something then just come and find me. On that note, I'm in the room directly across from you. Naruto informed his genin team, who nodded excitedly at the thought of a 4-day movie marathon. Can we get ramen? Kashina asked, her eyes lighting up and mouth quivering. Naruto's brain almost shut down from the sheer cuteness of the act, which struck him like it was a physical assault. Said cuteness only being amplified by the fact that Naaki and Makoto were doing it as well. Making Naruto's heart almost melt with a cuteness overload while his brain attempted to shut down to do damage control. But if Kushina wanted ramen, that meant that he would have to make a Kage Bunshin, have it run all the way out of the forest, then pick up the ramen, seal it up in a storage scroll, and come back again. Kage Bunshin or not, that was a lot of work for an ordinary Jonin, which was what Naruto was trying, and admittedly failing miserably, but trying, at being. Then again, considering what he had done so far, any chance of anyone believing he was a normal Jonin, ever, had probably already gone down the drain. Nevertheless, he had to be strong. He was Uzumaki Naruto, a living god of war. First man to master the Kyuubi's chakra. All-round badass. Of course we can, Naruto answered, his resistance folding like a house of cards after being exposed to those faces for less than 20 seconds. Causing Kashina along with Makoto and Naaki to cheer. They too had gotten a taste for the food of the gods, one simply didn't be friends with Uzumaki Kashina, or Uzumakis in general for that matter, and not pick up a ravenous hunger for the delectable noodles and broth. Alrighty then, let me show you where you'll be staying, Naruto told the genin before grabbing Makoto and Naaki by the shoulders. Having seen this many times before, Kushina immediately grabbed onto Naruto's waist and the three disappeared in a lightning and fire shunshin, which Naruto personally thought was badass and was in no way him compensating for losing the battle against cuteness mere moments before. XXX. Kushina let out a yawn as the genin teams gathered on the floor of the main arena inside the tower. The last 4 days had been good, really, really, good. The red kunoichi had used it kind of like a vacation. The three genin of Team 5 had rarely left their room. Mostly watching movies and playing cards, Naruto was usually with them and had found himself being used as a human hug pillow by Makoto and Kashina a couple of times when they had watched a movie late at night and the two had fallen asleep on top of him. Thankfully they no longer screamed in fright when they woke up on the blonde's chest, that would have really ruined a few mornings. The redhead looked around and slowly counted the amount of teams left. 7 in total, that meant a grand total of 21 genin, too many for the last round. It seemed Naruto-sensei had been right, there would be a preliminary round, smug bastard. Still a few of those teams hadn't made it in until today or late last night, so there was a chance that they would drop out. Considering that Fugaku's team hadn't made it in until early that morning, Kashina was hoping that they would drop out when the time came. She doubted that Fugaku himself would drop out, as much as she disliked the boy, he was skilled. The teams were all arranged into lines, the 4 Konoha teams were there and it seemed that Iwa, Kiri and Kumo had all managed to get teams into this round. Their senseis were in front of them. Naruto's shirt and pants still looked ruffled from sleeping on the floor the night before. Not that he was alone in that regard, both Makoto and her clothes were also ruffled, and even though he fell asleep on the couch instead of the floor, Naoki's clothes weren't looking a whole lot better. The Sandaime Hokage stood at the front of the assembled Jonin and looked over the crowd of genin. There was something in the old man's eyes that Kashina couldn't quite place, but she guessed it could be called sadness. The Hokage waited a second before opening his mouth, seemingly deciding on what words to use. First and foremost, congratulations to all of you for succeeding in the second part of the Chunin exams. The man stated solemnly, causing some confusion amongst the genin. Wasn't something like this supposed to be a happy occasion? Now the time has come to tell you the real reason for these exams. The elderly Sarutobi continued, his face stern and eyes unwavering. The same thought was going through most of the genin's heads. What real reason? These exams are a replacement for war amongst the shinobi villages, Hiruzen continued after a moment. By having all of you compete until only the best remain standing, you enhance your village's reputation in the final exams, and when some of you die or are unable to keep being ninjas after these exams are over, it helps keep the balance of power in the shinobi world. This is the true meaning of the Chunin exams and the true face of friendship in the shinobi world. The Hokage finished. Kashina looked down at her feet. That's one fucked up world. The redhead muttered. Naruto nodded in silent agreement with his miniature mother student. But didn't go over to her or comment on it outright. It may have been the time to do that, but it was certainly not the place. Now we have too many of you left and there are not enough time slots in the final exam for you to all to fight. As such, we will be having preliminary rounds here and now in order to cut down the competition more before the final rounds will begin in a month. Are there any questions? Hiruzen asked, and the Akamichi on Fugaku's team put up his hand, causing the elderly Sarutobi to nod at the Akamichi, allowing him to speak. Some of us only arrived in the tower while others have been here for a few days and have had time to recover their strength. How is making people like us fight them when we only just got here fair, when we won't be able to put in our best effort? The young Akamichi asked. Hiruzen looked at the boy for a minute. It is not fair, the Hokage admitted after a moment before continuing. However, life isn't fair, and the life of a shinobi is most definitely not fair. If you feel that you can no longer participate for any reason, then you will be given a chance to withdraw before the preliminary matches begin. For those of you that are thinking of pulling out of the exams because of injury or chakra exhaustion, I would implore you to do so. The preliminary rounds are exactly like battles out in the forest of death. These fights could well end up in one side or the other's death. If you feel you cannot handle a life or death battle right now, please withdraw. Hiruzen finished, before looking out over the genin. Now that has been addressed, I will turn you over to Hitaki Tsukumo, who will be proctoring the preliminary round. Tsukumo walked forward, a small smile on his face as the relatively young man looked out over the assembled genin, an action that Kashina mimicked. Should any of you wish to withdraw, please do so now. The white-haired man stated seriously. As Hokage-sama stated, these fights can be to the death if I don't step in quickly enough to stop that, or you don't surrender quickly enough. Anyone who wishes to withdraw, please put your hands up now. Tsukumo requested, his eyes still scanning the assembled genin teams. Hands began going up. Kon and Junichi Amy from Tsunade's genin team put their hands up to withdraw. Not overly surprising considering they had only gotten into the tower early that morning and were likely on their last legs already. This left only Uchiha Tiaki from Tsunade's genin team competing, not that Kashina found that to be surprising. With the exception of Makoto, the redhead had always thought that the Uchiha were too prideful for their own good. Hands also went up from Fugaku's genin team, though regretfully not from the proud ass himself. Akamichi Shomei withdrew himself from the competition, followed by Aburame Shibi. Kashina honestly thought this was a good move on their part. They had only gotten inside the tower early that morning, the same as Tsunade's genin team. There was no way either of them were ready to fight in that state. Withdrawing was the smart move there, but no one ever said that Fugaku was smart. The final genin to leave were two ninja from Kumo and one Kiri, all looking as if they were nursing injuries of some kind. It seemed that even with medical treatment that they hadn't been able to recover enough that they felt they could fight to the best of their ability. Will that be everyone withdrawing? Tsukumo asked. When no more hands went up, the white-haired man nodded to himself. Since there are 14 of you, there will be 7 one-on-one matches in this preliminary round. The round will end when one side gives up, is knocked out, is rendered unable to continue to fight, or dies. Should I tell you to stop, you will. If this rule is broken, then can and will disqualify you and give your place in the final exam to whoever you were fighting, even if you knock them out. Tsukumo assured the genin he was looking at, before taking in a deep breath. Now the names will be drawn at random by a computer and displayed on the screen behind me. Tsukumo stated as the wall above him opened up to reveal a large TV. Do you all understand so far? The white-haired man asked, receiving a choruses of hi from the genin. Alrighty then. All of you please proceed to the second level, then we'll start. Tsukumo told them, smiling. The genin filed up onto the balcony overlooking the preliminary battlefield. Naruto disappeared in a lightning shunshin and landed lightly behind his team, giving Tsunade a smug smile that more of his team was left than hers before turning his attention to his genin. Are you all ready? Naruto asked, a grim look on his face. The blonde didn't even want to consider that a member of his makeshift family could be in mortal danger, but they were and he had to, so at the very least he would gauge their conditions and give them any advice that he could. Sure, we are, Sensei, Kashina assured the blonde. But Naruto could tell that his entire team had sensed his unease. We'll be fine, Sensei, Makoto assured him. Don't forget the kind of crazy shit you put us through, Naruto-sensei. Naaki added, a mile-wide grin on his face. Compared against that, some genin are small fry. The Senju assured him. Naruto nodded, oddly enough hearing that actually did make him feel better. The blonde decided on giving some last-minute advice. Alright then. Guess I'll just give out some last-minute advice then. Naruto told the group, who nodded, seeing the other senseis doing the same with their genin. Remember what I told you guys about keeping some trump cards lying around like your weapons just in case? Naruto asked, getting a nod from his genin. Good, now you can forget them. The blonde told the assembled genin before him. The guys you're about to be facing are the cream of the crop of their villages, Naruto told his students. For that you're going to need to pull out all of the stops, go at your full power from the outset and crush them before they can react. Keep the chakra-based attacks that I taught you secret if you can, but feel free to go nuts with your weapons, understand? Naruto finished and got huge grins from all his genin who went about unsealing their weapons. A pair of kodachi and a full-sized katana getting strapped to Kashina's waist and back respectively. Oh, how I've waited for this. The redhead stated, seemingly bouncing up and down with joy at the prospect of using her blades in actual combat. I hear that, Naaki added, while placing his hook swords on his back, a megawatt grin on his face. Don't I know it? Makoto added, her chakudo being placed in her belt. The team was getting odd looks from the other genin but ignored them. They were the student of Narukami Naruto, their awesome was not just normal awesome. No, as Naruto sensei had told them on multiple occasions, while so-called normal people might not get it, there was no awesome like crazy awesome, which is exactly what the blonde sensei had tried to turn his genin team into, a mass of pure crazy awesome and win. Naruto liked to think that he had succeeded in this endeavor. The blonde-haired Jonin turned his attention back to Tsukumo as the man began to speak again. Alright then, light up the board. The white-haired man yelled. A second passed before names began to be cycled through on the large TV screen before stopping. Naruto whistled. Right off the bat, huh? Well, like mother like son, he supposed. The name Uchiha Makoto was displayed proudly and on the top of the giant TV screen with the name Uchiha Tiaki beneath it. Makoto jumped the railing, landing lightly on the floor of the battlefield, an action that Tiaki mimicked, though far less gracefully. Tsukumo stood between the two, a now emotionless look on his face. Uchiha Makoto ready? The man asked, looking over at the black-haired girl. Hi, Makoto replied, her eyes focused on her opponent. Uchiha Tiaki, ready. Tsukumo repeated his previous words, just changing the name. Hi. The other Uchiha replied. Naruto looked the kid over. Well, this would be fast and disappointing. Much like Sasuke's every attempt to chat up a woman, zing. Oh man, how he wished he had have thought of that when he was younger, that would have been comedy gold. Hajime. Tsukumo yelled, jumping back. Tiaki opened his mouth to speak. Naruto shook his head in disappointment. Rookie mistake, the blonde muttered. Kashina and Naaki nodded. Their blonde sensei had quite literally beaten not talking to your enemy into their entire team. He had also allowed some exceptions to the rule, but at times like this it was still a big no, and Makoto punished Tiaki for his indiscretion. It would be Tiaki's first, and last, mistake of the match. The black-haired girl blurred forward, her fist burying itself in Tiaki's gut and making the genin vomit blood. Naruto winced at the blow. Okay, granted he had been the one to teach her to hit that hard, but damn, he thought that genin could take more of a hit than that. Makoto wasn't done there though. The black-haired beauty fully intended to take advantage of each and every precious second that blow had brought her, because right now Makoto knew that Tiaki was into much pain to even think of making a chakra scalpel. The black-haired girl followed up by planting a vicious side kick into Tiaki's knee, and with the sickening sound of bone snapping broke his leg at the joint. The boy screamed. Makoto didn't pay him the tiniest amount of attention. Her left leg rose, kicking Tiaki into the air before pulling her right arm back. Oh, that wasn't good. Naruto loved his genin to pieces, but there were times when he really regretted what he taught them. On the other hand, somewhere inside Naruto's mind was a chibi version of him doing a victory dance. Chakra built in Makoto's right palm. This wasn't like Tsunade's super strength though. No, this was something different. Tiaki's close to unconscious form came down. Makoto's hand came out and slammed into the teen's midsection. Tesho. Makoto yelled as her palm impacted with Tiaki's body. For a second nothing happened, then blood fountained out of the younger Uchiha's mouth like a river before he fell over in a dead faint. Tesho, or iron palm, was simple. In theory, it used the chakra in the user's hand to create a shock wave that traveled through the opponent's body, damaging their internal organs. The main problem with the attack was that if the opponent was skilled enough that they channeled chakra to their body and organs subconsciously, then it would render the strike all but useless. Still looking at the shape Tiaki was in now, obviously he didn't know how to do that. Winner Uchiha Makoto. Tsukumo yelled, holding a hand up to signal the end of the match. Naruto cheered along with the others on his team at Makoto's victory. Ignoring the looks he was getting from the other senseis, he knew what they wanted to ask. How could Makoto move like that? This was a time of peace. It was unlikely at best that any genin could be that proficient in combat unless their sensei pushed them unimaginably hard. Which was exactly what Naruto did. That being said, if they wanted an answer to their damn question, they could come over and ask. He was not volunteering information. Makoto jumped back up, landing lightly on the railing before jumping at Naaki and Kashina, pulling both of her fellow genin into a tight hug. I won. The black-haired girl yelled, cheering her own victory as Naaki and Kushina hugged their friend back, telling Makoto how awesome she looked down there. If that's all they've got, this exam will be a cakewalk. The young Uchiha added, bouncing up and down like a child on a sugar rush. Naruto placed his hand on top of Makoto's head and smiled. Good work down there, Makoto, you've come a long way from the girl I was assigned to teach. Naruto told his student, who beamed up at him, a giant smile on her face. Makoto let Kushina and Naaki go before glomping Naruto in a hug so tight Naruto swore that he could hear his ribs creaking. Thanks, Sensei. Makoto chirped as she let go and turned her attention back to the giant TV, still bouncing up and down. The board flashed through names, before stopping abruptly, and Naruto felt his blood run cold. Tsukumo walked out to the center of the battlefield and held his arm up. Would Hyuga Hiashi and Hoshigaki Kisame please come down? Naruto's eyes flicked to the genin from the Kiri team. Kisame's skin wasn't blue yet, but his teeth were already filed to points, and those eyes, it seemed that he already loved killing. Naruto gritted his teeth. Regardless, this Kisame wasn't his Kisame. That being said, if the boy became too much of a threat, then Naruto would find a way to quietly kill him and dispose of the body. The two genin faced off. Naruto didn't bother deluding himself. This battle was already over, and it was Kisame's victory. Yes, Hiashi was a good ninja, a very good ninja, but even at this age the future Hyuga clan head didn't hold a candle to the boy that would one day be called the Kurigakure no Kaijin and the Oo-Motenai Biju. Though Naruto personally doubted that anyone but himself thought that Kisame was in with a chance of winning, well, except for Kisame's sensei. If the man's smile was anything to go by, he knew exactly what was about to happen to Hiashi, and it seemed like it was going to be painful. Hyuga Hiashi, ready? Tsukumo asked, getting an arrogant nod from the white-eyed teen. Hoshigaki Kisame, ready? Kisame's answer was a vicious smile as the Kiri ninja drew the katana from him back. Hajime. Tsukumo yelled, jumping back. Kisame didn't waste any time in charging forward. Though Naruto noted that the future Kurigakure no Kaijin was careful not to charge into quickly and risk falling to a Juken strike. The katana was brought to bear, sliver blade glittering in the light as it raced at Hiashi's neck. Naruto grimaced. It seemed that Kisame was going for the kill right off the bat. The future Hyuga clan head leaned back, allowing the blade to pass by him harmlessly as he activated his Byakugan. However, while the Byakugan did give its user visual prowess beyond most, it had a major downfall to it as well, although Naruto had to admit that the downfall was more a user-based one than a weakness inherent in the Dujutsu itself. That downfall was the pride that the Byakugan gave its users. The ability to see everything in almost every direction as well as chakra was indeed a powerful ability, but it made most Hyuga dangerously overconfident. The Hyuga also tended to forget the fact that unlike the Sharingan, the Byakugan didn't help the user track fast-moving objects. Thus it was no surprise to Naruto when Hiashi was doubled over by the kick that Kisame followed up with, causing blood to come out of the clan heir's mouth. Naruto couldn't help the grimace that came to his face. It seemed that Kisame already had some of his monster-like strength even at this young age. Hiashi jumped back and righted himself before throwing a barrage of Juken strikes at his opponent. If possible, Kisame's smile widened. As the Kurigakure genin went on the attack with his katana, Hiashi backed off again. Then Kisame did something that not even Naruto was expecting. He threw his katana at the retreating Hyuga, forcing Hiashi to duck out of the way or have his head removed. At the very second that Kisame threw his sword, the teen's hands blurred as they formed seals. Sweden no Jutsu. Kisame declared, the water bullet being shot out of his mouth at high speeds and impacting with Hiashi's stomach with bone-breaking force. When that happened, Naruto shot a look over at Jiraiya. The white-haired man's hands were gripping the metal of the railing so hard his knuckles were going white. It seemed that Jiraiya knew that Hiashi was outmatched here but could do nothing but watch as his student was picked apart. Kisame raced forward, his fist slammed into Hiashi's face with bone-breaking force, splattering the Hyuga heir's nose across the side of his face as a spray of blood shot up on the wall, dyeing it crimson. Naruto's grimace increased as he saw Kisame rush through another set of hand seals. Suikoden no Jutsu, the madly grinning Kurigakure genin declared, firing off the water bullet from his mouth. Just like the name of the technique implied, the water formed into a shark that immediately bit into Hiashi's torso. Blood went flying and the Hyuga heir fell to the floor in pain. the shark vanished and Kisame retrieved his sword before walking towards Hiashi casually and bringing the katana back. Bad luck, were the only words that Kisame offered as he brought the blade of his katana up, ready to cut down Hiashi's prone form. Tsukumo didn't let it happen, getting between the two genin instantly. As Hyuga Hiashi is unable to continue, the winner of the second round is Hoshigaki Kisame. The white-haired Jonin declared, his white light chakra saber held firmly in his right hand. It seemed that the Hitaki was going to cut Kisame down if the teen didn't back down. The Kiri genin shrugged and wisely returned his katana to its sheath before jumping back next to his last remaining teammate. Hiashi, on the other hand, was carried out by medics. If the way Jiraiya was looking at the doors was any indication, then he wanted to go check on his student, but as things stood, the white-haired Sannin stayed. If nothing else, he would be morale support for his remaining genin. The eyes of everyone in the room once again turned to the TV above the battlefield. Names began to cycle through once more. Naruto just hoped that his genin got people they could handle. If the blonde was honest with himself, then he knew that if they went all out, Kashina, Makoto and Naaki could likely take on any genin in the room and come away without taking too many major hits. But all the same, Naruto hoped that they got easy opponents. Partly so that they were sure to advance to the finals, and partly so that he could collect information on the other finalists. Naruto did not want another surprise like Hoshigaki Kisame being here. The board stopped cycling, and Naruto felt like cursing. None of his students had been picked to go in, but he knew the names, well, one of them anyway, on that board. Will Darui of Kumo and Kato of Iwa please come down to the arena? Tsukumo requested while Naruto was still silently cursing. The blonde had no idea who Kato was. From what he looked like now, he was a teen of middling height and brown hair in the normal attire of an Iwa ninja, but while Naruto had no idea who Kato was, the blonde did know who Darui was. It was a little hard to forget seeing a man manipulate black lightning. That little trick had apparently been taught to the man by the Sandaime Raikage himself. If this version of Darui was the same as his home dimensions, then these Chunin exams just got a hell of a lot harder, as if Kisame alone hadn't been enough. Kato jumped the railing of the upper-level platform and landed lightly on the ground, a cocky smile adorning his face. Obviously the genin didn't know a damn thing about nature manipulation, because if he did, then Kato should be quite worried. Because Raiden techniques trump Doden techniques any day of the week, unless of course Kato wasn't a Doden user, which Naruto admitted wasn't outside the realm of possibility. Darui of Kumo, ready? Tsukumo asked, once again taking up a position between the two genin. Sure, the Kumo shinobi answered lazily. Kato of Iwa, ready? The white-haired proctor asked, turning to face the Iwa genin who had a cocky smile on his face. This was already over and Naruto knew who the victor was, but hey, if Kato wanted to make his chances even worse, then who was Naruto to tell him differently? I'll kick his ass, the Iwa genin stated confidently. Hajime. Tsukumo yelled, jumping backwards. To say the fight was short would be something of an understatement. The fight, if you could call it that, was composed of exactly 3 moves. Kato charged forward looking to engage Darui in close combat. Darui flipped through hand seals faster than any genin had the right to. Raiden. Jaibashi, Darui declared, holding his hands out in front of him. Electricity roared, and less than a second later, where Kato used to be was a deep-fired Iwa genin. Naruto grimaced. That wasn't something a genin could do. The only genin in the room capable of that besides his team was possibly Minato, and to be honest, Kashina, Naaki and Makoto were all Chunin-level combatants already. All they were missing was the experience. If Naruto had to guess, his father was probably on the same level. Namikaze Minato was not called a prodigy of the ninja arts for no reason after all. Still, that begged the question of what Darui was doing here. The kid was more than ready for a Chunin promotion. Was it because Kumo wanted to show off to attract more customers? Or was it something else? Either way, it bore watching. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts as the board selected its next 2 genin. Naruto smiled to himself as he read the names. Uzumaki Kashina vs Uchiha Fugaku. Kashina wasted no time in jumping into the arena, followed closely by Fugaku. Uzumaki Kashina, ready? Tsukumo inquired. The white-haired Jonin was actually quite interested in what the Uzumaki heiress could do. When the control of a team that had Uzumaki Kashina, Uchiha Makoto and Senju Naaki on it was transferred to an unknown Jonin. He had been skeptical at best on what they could achieve, but after seeing Makoto's match Tsukumo found himself intrigued by what the genin could do now. Hi, Kashina answered, her fiery and impulsive personality almost completely gone as she slipped into her battle mode. Uchiha Fugaku, ready? Tsukumo asked, getting only an arrogant nod from the Uchiha. Hajime. At the word both Fugaku and Kashina rushed through hand seals. Naruto smirked as he saw Fugaku finish. The moron hadn't even activated his Sharingan yet. He probably thought that he wouldn't need it. Foolish, especially when he had seen what Makoto was capable of. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Fugaku declared, exhaling. The fireball that he created roared across the arena and towards Kashina, who just smiled. Sweden. Mizoripa. The redhead countered and steam engulfed the battlefield below, cutting off the sight of the onlookers. Naruto just closed his eyes and listened, as did Makoto and Naaki. The blonde had taught all of the members of Team 5 the art of silent killing, or at least its basics, when he covered assassination, and while they were nowhere near the level that he could use it, the technique should prove sufficient. Through the smoke Naruto could hear the sound of feet moving and grunts of pain as a kunai sliced into flesh. Oh, it seemed that little Kushi-chan was in a bit of sadistic mood today. Naruto rose, an eyebrow. Kashina had stopped moving. Why? His question was answered a second later when the redhead's voice echoed over the battlefield below. Kurigaku no Jutsu. The disembodied voice of the redhead echoed from within the mist as it thickened. Naruto smiled as he caught the shocked look that Jiraiya sent him. He wasn't surprised that the white-haired man was looking at him like that. The Kurigaku no Jutsu was one of the most highly regarded and hidden jutsu of Kiri, and Jiraiya knew damn well that Kashina wouldn't know it on her own, so that probably led the man to the conclusion that Naruto had taught her, which he had. What the Sannin was really wondering, however, was how exactly Naruto had gotten his hands on the jutsu, and Naruto delighted in not telling. Still using Sweden. Mizoripa to counter the fireball, then using the leftover water to fuel the Kurigaku no Jutsu was an excellent idea. Naruto would have to praise Kashina when she won. The redhead's voice echoed again. Lungs, liver, heart, cervical vein, kidneys, brain stem, femoral artery, windpipe. The echoing voice of Uzumaki Kashina made itself known from within the mist. Tell me, Fugaku, how would you like to die? Kashina finished, throwing in a dose of killing intent for good measure. This time it was Tsunade who looked at Naruto in surprise. Honestly, Naruto didn't find it to be surprising that she did. This was not the way a genin fought after all. No, this was the way most expected a Chunin-level ninja to fight. The mist parted as Kashina jumped straight up and landed lightly on the ceiling, looking down as she flipped through and seals and closed her eyes. The redhead breathed in deeply. Futon. Daitapa. Kashina yelled, exhaling. Naruto internally applauded his miniature mother. That was an above excellent strategy. First she took away Fugaku's vision, next she put him on guard and rattled him with her "How do you want to die?" question. Then when he was on edge and likely look every which way inside of that mist to find her, she escaped up to attack him from the one blind spot that even some ninjas occasionally forget about, above. The wind wiped away the mist almost instantly and slammed Fugaku into the floor with enough for to crack his ribs. The Uchiha's eyes were wide. Naruto had to hold in a chuckle. The poor bastard had no idea what was going on. Kashina pushed off of the roof hard and came down on Fugaku's head with a kick, breaking the Uchiha's nose and knocking him out cold before jumping back up onto the balcony to her team. Winner. Kashina. Tsukumo stated after a second. The redhead waited about a second after that was said to grab Makoto and Naaki into a massive hug, and if the way they were going blue was any indication, Kashina was cutting off their air supply and circulation with that hold. Damn. That was a well-executed choke. Maybe he should look into teaching Kashina more moves like that. When the redhead released the two, Naruto tensed the muscles in his abdomen and channeled his chakra through them, and not a second too soon. As Kashina repeated Makoto's actions and wrapped the blonde in a tight hug, Naruto was convinced that it was only his chakra reinforcement that stopped his student from breaking a rib or two. I won. I won. I won. I won. Kashina said repeatedly as she let go of her sensei and began doing a happy dance. Naruto just chuckled right up until he saw Kashina breathing in deeply. Naruto's entire body blurred, and in less than a second Makoto and Naaki found earplugs sitting comfortably in their ears as Kashina yelled, "I am fucking awesome. TTEBANE. After finishing the statement, Kushina's face went so red that it put her hair to shame. Oh man, was that funny. Naruto honestly thought he busted a rib or five trying not to laugh. The blonde placed a hand on top of his miniature mother's head in a fond gesture and ruffled the crimson locks slightly. That was an excellent strategy, Kashina. Naruto praised his student, and the redhead beamed up at him with a megawatt grin. You're no longer that little girl that got angry when I called her a tomato when we first met. I'm proud of you. The blonde finished. Kushina hugged him again. Naruto just kept smiling and ruffled her hair some more. Warm, was the redhead's thought as Naruto's hand ruffled her hair again. The Uzumaki heiress let go of the hug and stepped back to look at the giant TV screen. Naruto removed his hand and turned his attention to the names flashing up. When it stopped, Naruto was caught by a strange sense of deja vu. The names read quite clearly: Inuzuka Sum versus Namikaze Minto. Well, what did you know? Like son like father. Or was it like father like son? Because from Naruto's perspective his match against Kiba had happened first, but technically he was in another dimension and at an earlier time, so, screw it. Now he remembered why he gave up thinking on problems like that. Minato and Sum faced each other, faces void of expression. Naruto shot a quick look at Jiraiya. The man already knew who would win, of that Naruto was sure. Considering the way that he was looking at Minato, it seemed that Naruto's prediction for his father to be in the Chunin exam finals was spot on. Tsukumo spoke the same words he had since the beginning, asking if they were ready and getting a hi from each of the members of Team 7. Hajime. Tsukumo shouted, jumping back. Minato jumped, sticking to the ceiling. The blonde genin's hands blurred as he raced through seals. Futon. Gokuho. Minato stated before slashing his hands at the still grounded Inuzuka. Sum jumped back, narrowly dodging the almost invisible wind blasts. Her Ninken Kuromaru following his partner's movements. Naruto calmly analyzed the attack, storing it away for later reference. He would need to tell his team some ways around that. The blonde Namikaze launched himself off of the roof and closed in on the future Inuzuka clan head, throwing a shrunken and then blurring through some hand seals. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Minto said as the shuriken multiplied, turning form 1 into 30. Naruto whistled, not bad. The blonde sensei made a mental note to teach his genin an elemental version of that jutsu. Father or not, Naruto would not allow Jiraiya's genin team of all things to out-awesome his own. It just wasn't allowed. The shuriken closed in and the Inuzuka smiled before spinning towards the grounded Namikaze, Kuromaru following her actions in an attack that Naruto knew quite well. Gatsuga. Sum screamed as the almost drill-like attacks from Kuromaru and her did their best to make new holes in the Namikaze air. Minato dropped low, moving fast, and rolled forward, allowing the first of the drilling attacks to pass by him harmlessly. Naruto couldn't help but smile when he saw his father take advantage of something that he had found to be a weakness in the Gatsuga technique. It gave the user tunnel vision. Now, considering that the user was little more than a spinning drill of death that could power through quite a bit when in that state, it really didn't seem like that much of a problem. But if your opponent thought tactically rather than just trying to outmuscle you, then the problem with the Gatsuga became much more apparent. As the human and dog drills came back around in another attempt to kill him, Minato jumped backwards, leaving the explosive tags that he had dropped behind. Katsu! Minato yelled. The explosion easily hit Sum and her Ninken partner, but Minato wasn't done yet. The blonde-haired Namikaze threw a handful of kunai with explosive tags attacked into the smoke, and his hands blurred once more as he raced through hand seals. Futon. Daitapa. The wind jutsu easily pushed the smoke away and slammed Sum into the far wall of the arena. Naruto's eyes widened at the tags on the back of the kunai. They weren't normal explosive tags. The younger version of his father brought his hand up in a half-tiger seal and opened his mouth to ignite the specialized explosive tags around Sum and Kuromaru and finish the fight. Naruto acted quickly. The blonde soundlessly made 2 Kage Bunshin and had them grab Makoto and Naaki, while the original grabbed Kashina and turned them away from the battlefield. Close your eyes. Naruto yelled as he covered the genin's ears and placed a small amount of chakra around his own to prevent what he knew would happen otherwise. It was a testament to how much the genin trusted their sensei. They closed their eyes without question just as Minato finished his attack. Katsu. The flash bang tags went off. To a normal shinobi, a flash bang tag would be enough to put them down for a minute or two. But to an Inuzuka who was unprepared, the fight was over. As useful as having heightened senses were, they could also be a real bitch at times. Naruto let his genin go as Tsukumo called the fight as Sum and Kuromaru were taken to the med bay to be checked over for any lasting injuries. Naruto yawned when the next names came up: Kitsuchi of Iwa vs Iden. The pairing caused one of the Iwa ninja to swear before looking down at the proctor. "Proctor-san, Iden of Iwa wished to forfeit the match." The blonde's eyes narrowed. Iden didn't back out earlier when the genin were asked if they wished to back out, so why was he doing it now? Naruto could only see two reasons for it off the top of his head. First, Kitsuchi was descended from someone important in Iwa, someone so important that Iden didn't want to risk injuring him for some reason or another. The second, and far more likely, reason was that Iden knew he stood no chance against Kitsuchi and decided to save himself an ass whooping and pull out. Naruto made a mental note to teach his team some strategies against Dodenjutsu. If the second reason was the right one, they would need it. Tsukumo just looked at Iden for a second before nodding. "Very well," the white-haired Jonin replied. "Victor by forfeit, Kitsuchi of Iwa," Tsukumo declared before turning to the final two. "Would Senju Naaki and Takuji of Kurigakure please come down to the arena?" Tsukumo requested. Naruto placed his hand on Naoki's shoulder. "Crush him," Naruto said simply. The Senju heir's face turned grim as Naaki nodded and jumped into the arena. As much as Naruto loved Naaki, he had the biggest penchant for showing off when he was fighting an easy opponent. Right now Naaki couldn't afford to show off. There was just too much risk of it blowing up in his face right now. Honestly, even without his words, Naruto doubted that Naaki would have played around, but the blonde just felt the need to make sure. The Senju jumped the railing and landed lightly on the ground. The Kiri genin took his position across from Naaki. The Senju's blank face was starting to rattle Tsunade, who had never seen him like that before. "Hajime," Tsukumo called, jumping back. Naruto smiled as the Kiri genin jumped forward to engage Naaki in taijutsu. This was already over. Takuji threw his right arm forward in a sloppy cross punch. Naaki made him pay for it. The Senju's arms wrapped around the offending limb and bent it back. Naaki twisted violently, breaking the arm at the shoulder. A scream was ripped out of Takuji's mouth. The Senju heir paid it no mind. Naoki's left foot lashed out in a vicious side kick, breaking the Kiri genin's leg at the knee. Naaki twisted again, laying Takuji across his knee, spine down. The Senju brought his elbow down on the Kiri genin's sternum. There was a wet snapping sound as Naoki's elbow broke Takuji's ribs and the Senju dropped the Kiri genin to the floor. "W winner Naaki," Tsukumo stated after a second. Most of the audience was bone white. While all of the fights had been dominated by one side or the other, this was the first one that had gotten so violent. It seemed Naoki's display had just driven home what could happen to them. Those movies aren't Senju taijutsu style. There are less violent ways of taking care of a weaker opponent in there. Where did Naaki learn that style? Tsunade asked herself. Naruto's enhanced hearing picked up on the question. Eventually Tsunade would learn that he had imparted, at least parts, of his taijutsu style to his genin team, and when she did, the slug Sannin would learn something else about his taijutsu style. That being that Naruto's moves started at MAME and only got more vicious and deadly from there on out. "Alright everybody, can I have you all come down here please?" Tsukumo said, holding out a small box as the winning genin jumped the railing. "Okay, each of you needs to pick a number out of the box and that's what will get you matched up against your opponent." The white-haired Jonin told the assembled genin as he offered the box to each. "Okay, who's got what?" "5, Kashina answered brightly, bouncing up and down. 1, Makoto answered after a second. 3, Naaki replied, wondering who he would be fighting. 4, Kisame told the room before smiling viciously at Naaki, only to be met by a flat glare from the Senju. 2, Kitsuchi answered disinterestedly. 6, Minato answered, looking at Kashina with an unreadable expression on his face. 7, came the dull voice of Darui. Tsukumo nodded at the genin before smiling. "Alright, in that case the matchups will be as follows. First match will be Uchiha Makoto versus Kitsuchi of Iwa." The white-haired Jonin informed the room. The second will be Senju Naaki versus Hoshigaki Kisame, followed by Uzumaki Kashina versus Namikaze Minato. Darui of Kumo will be given a bye into the semi-finals due to the odd numbers of the participants. Alrighty then, the final exams start in a month, so get all the training in that you can. Tsukumo advised before looking around the room one more time. Any questions? He asked after seeing the genin shake their heads. The white-haired exam proctor nodded. Alright, I'll see you all in a month then. Please follow your senseis as they know the way out. Naruto waved his genin team over and walked out of the room before they could be stopped. He honestly didn't feel like having a queue and a session right then. The second they were out of sight of the other teams, Naruto placed his hands over Naoki's and Makoto's shoulders as Kushina hugged him around the waist before the three disappeared in a shunshin. Naruto discreetly added seals in the middle of his genin's backs where they were unlikely to see them. The seals did two things. First, they told him what kind of condition the holder was in. Second, it would tell him where they were. Considering that Hoshigaki Kisame and Darui were here, Naruto was feeling a tad paranoid. XXX. The blonde Jonin yawned to himself as he stumbled into his apparent. It had been a long day. After getting back from the forest and seeing his genin off to their homes, Naruto had to report to the old monkey about root. Hiruzen was understandably concerned when he learned of the amount of root agents in the forest, but the old man was crafty if nothing else and assured Naruto that he had already started some plans to keep Danzo at bay. The Uzumaki was upset that he couldn't simply run the man through with his blade, but it was better than nothing. Naruto stretched, his arms going towards the sky. Oh dear sweet Kami, was he tired. That meeting had really taken it out of him. First a shower and then bed. He sent a pulse through the master seal that was on his left bicep. Naaki was a little sore for some reason, but other than that he was fine. No emotional problems. It seemed that his cute little genin was in the Senju compound, no doubt being grilled by Tsunade about where he learned his new taijutsu style. Naruto resigned himself to having the blonde medic come over and chew him out. Oh well, a clone could always handle that. As for Makoto, it seemed that she was unhurt and having a good time. Her emotions were positive at least. As for where she was, the Golden Leaf Restaurant, her family had probably taken her out to celebrate her getting into the finals of the Chunin exams. Good for her. Naruto's blood ran cold. Kashina wasn't in the village. She was already outside of it and getting further and further away. Her emotions were a jumble, but fear was the most prominent. Naruto twisted and raced to his front door, not even bothering to open it. The angered Uzumaki slammed a Rasengan into the door and smashed it off its hinges before racing towards the village gates at full speed. The blonde didn't stop for anything as he continued his reckless run to the village gates. Anything that got between him and Kashina right then would be put down hard. As the Chunin at the gate found out when they attempted to stop him, the first one was clotheslined while the second caught a hard kick to their chest, breaking more than a few ribs. Naruto didn't even slow his stride as he raced out of the village and hit the forest surrounding Konoha. The blonde took to the trees and continued following the trail that his seal had left for him. Then, after running almost constantly for half an hour, Naruto finally saw them, a group of 5 Kumo ninja leading a bound Kashina away from the village. The blonde saw red and leapt into the group, completely ignoring strategy in favor of getting to his red-haired student as fast as humanly possible. When Naruto landed in the center of the Kumo ninja, they barely had time to register he was there before Naruto sent them flying. The one holding Kashina's lead got his arms severed at the elbows by a futon chakra-coated kunai before being kicked into a nearby tree. As for the 3 behind him, Naruto spun his hands, blurring through hand seals as he did. The blonde inhaled deeply. Futon. Datapa. Naruto yelled, pushing the air out of his lungs and blowing 3 of them off their feet and sending them flying back. Naruto completed his spin, right leg coming up and kicking the last Kumo ninja in the face, sending him sprawling back with the impact. The blonde turned back to his student and immediately ripped away her bonds, including the one of her mouth. The redhead didn't say anything, instead opting to hug him around the middle, a slight tremble in her frame. Naruto hugged his miniature mother back and turned his eyes to the 4 recovering Kumo ninja as he scooped Kushina up into a bridal carry. Alright, shall we get started? Naruto asked rhetorically before charging the Kumogakur ninja. The blonde slid under the first attack, a kunai aimed at his throat, and responded by kicking said attacker in the throat, crushing his windpipe and dooming the Kumo ninja to death by suffocation. All the while Naruto held Kashina close to his body, his left arm supporting most of the redhead's weight while his right rubbed her back in slow circles that were meant to be comforting. Naruto jumped to avoid a Raiden jutsu that had been aimed at his back and flipped himself over so that he hit a tree feet first. The blonde kicked off evading another Raiden jutsu before landing next to another Kumo ninja and ducking low, allowing the man's kunai to go harmlessly over his head while the blonde swept his opponent's legs out from under him and then kicked the unfortunate Kumo ninja into another oncoming Raiden jutsu. At the same time, Naruto pulled Kushina just a little closer into his chest as he felt the redhead grip him slightly tighter. The blonde jumped into the air as kunai from both remaining Kumo ninjas attempted to impale him. The Jonin couldn't help but smile as he saw the corpse of the one he had disarmed. It seemed he bled out. Good. The blonde hit the ground running and seemingly disappeared before reappearing in front of one of the two remaining Kumo ninja. The blonde's left leg lashed out in a bone-crushing kick. Blood fountained out of the opposing ninja's mouth as Naruto's kick broke the man's ribs and pushed them into his lungs. Naruto turned and started to walk back towards Konoha, leaving the last Kumo ninja to wonder what the hell had just happened before throwing a barrage of kunai at the back of the blonde, who simply swayed from side to side to avoid them. You know, I was planning on letting you live and delivering a message back to your Raikage, so he knew not to try this again, but if you keep trying, and failing miserably I might add, to kill me, I may have to rethink my generosity. Naruto stated, still looking forward and walking slowly back towards Konoha. As such, he missed the look of pure rage on the Kumo ninja's face. The man's hands blurred through seals. Raiden. Gion. The man yelled, lightning flying towards Naruto, who, literally, skipped to the left, allowing it to pass by him harmlessly. The blonde didn't even once look back at the still fuming Kumogaku ninja. God fucking damn it. The man screamed at the retreating back of the blonde shinobi. Look at me while I'm trying to kill you, you motherfucker. Naruto disappeared in a burst of speed, reappearing behind the Kumo ninja and kicking him into the air, his right arm still rubbing Kushina's back in consoling motions. The blonde's foot hooked one of the kunai off of the ground and sent it flying towards the airborne Kumo ninja, piercing him through the throat. Naruto walked past the downed Kumo ninja. For the record, I was lying when I said I'd let you leave here alive. The blonde informed the dead man before turning his attention to the redhead in his arms. You okay, Kashina? Naruto asked, looking down at the redhead still being held in a bridal-style carry in his arms. The Uzumaki heiress nodded before looking down at the ground. I'm fine, Sensei. They didn't actually do anything to me. But I couldn't do anything to them. Kashina yelled after a second. Her tone seemed to be a mix between anger and shame. We trained so hard and for so long, and I couldn't do a goddamn thing against them. The redhead raged. Naruto's right hand just continued to rub her back in a calming manner. When they managed to capture me, I tried to leave a trail of my hair for a rescue team to follow, but they caught on because my hair is so distinctive and stopped me. My hair doesn't do anything but make me an outcast. Kushina added after a moment. Naruto leaned down, taking his right arm away from Kushina's back and flicked his red-haired student on the nose. Getting a look of close to amazement from the Uzumaki genin in his arms. And what exactly did you expect to be able to do against them? Naruto asked after a second. You are a genin, Kashina. Granted, you are a genin who clearly has the skills of an upper-level chunin if you went all out, but against 5 jonin-level ninja, what did you expect? If it really mortifies you that much that you couldn't do anything, that you just need to get stronger, okay? Naruto stated sternly to the redhead in his arms. Kushina looked at him for a second. Before nodding, Naruto just smiled in return. As the blonde Jonin jumped up into one of the trees around them and quickly made his way to the canopy. Oh, and by the way, Naruto added as he jumped into the air aiming for another tree, the full moon coming out from behind the clouds for the first time that night, bathing the two in an almost ethereal glow. I think that your hair is beautiful. Naruto told the genin, smiling down at the redhead in his arms. It may have been his imagination. But after saying that, Naruto could swear that Kashina pulled herself a little closer to him. The blonde shinobi pushed off of another branch, Kashina still held protectively in his arms. Naruto was going far slower on his way back to Konoha than he was when he had gone out of the hidden village to find Kashina. Part of that was because Naruto knew as fact that he was going to be dragged in front of Sarutobi at the very least and forced to explain his actions, and honestly the blonde hated boring meetings like that and was trying to put it off as long as possible. The other reason that Naruto was taking so long to get back was that what he had just done had suddenly sunk into his head and the blonde shinobi was freaking the fuck out. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh you motherfucker. Were the words currently making their way through the mind of the sensei of Team 5, which should tell you enough about his current state of mind. Oh fuck me, Dad saved Kushina last time. Oh shit, did I just screw the timeline, dimension more than I already have, oh fuck. Have I created a world where I don't exist? Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Naruto's train of thought was constantly recurring around the same possibility. Had he just screwed up the timeline so much that he prevented himself from being born in another dimension? Did he just screw this world's chance at having a child of prophecy? Oh fuck, this was bad. What was he going to do? What was he going to? Naruto's head snapped to the right, causing Kushina to look up at her sensei in worry. Naruto fought back a groan as his nerves just felt like someone had slapped him. Would you quit that, you moron? Akane's voice came through their mental link. Oh boy, that wasn't good. She never used the demonic voice with him unless he really pissed her off, and Naruto did his best to avoid doing that. The demoness could lay a beat down on him that others would be hard-pressed to match. Then something else registered in Naruto's mind. Akane was talking to him. That must meant that, yes you absolute moron, the job is done. Did you expect any less from me? The redhead asked, an edge to her tone. Naruto quickly leapt to reassure the demoness living inside him that he didn't expect any less from her. He really didn't feel like getting another beat down. Of course not, Akane-chan. I know you always do good work. Naruto told the demoness in reply, getting a snort of disbelief in return. Still, since the redhead didn't press the matter, it meant that Naruto was off the hook, at least for now. Dodged a bullet there, Naruto thought to himself, keeping his thoughts carefully concealed from the demoness. At any rate, quit being such a little bitch, Naruto. Akane told her partner, the redhead's voice coming off as a strange mix of exasperated and fond. You have nothing to worry about, Akane asserted. What the hell do you mean that I have nothing to worry about? Naruto shouted back mentally. I may have just completely screwed my own existence. What happens if I cease to exist, Akane? If a younger me doesn't exist here, does that mean I will fade away because I won't be born, or what? Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Naruto's face snapped to the left this time, causing Kashina to look up again, worry clear on the redhead's face. Didn't I just tell you to quit that, you fucking moron? Question mark single quote. The demoness demanded, a chill running up Naruto's spine at her words. As I said, you will be fine, Akane told him again, each word being stressed to the blonde shinobi, and to be honest, hearing the demoness tell him that in such a sure tone actually made Naruto start believing it. Listen up, Brad, because I'm only saying this once, Akane said over their mental bond. We're in a different dimension, not a different timeline, there is a difference. The demoness stated before predicting the blonde's next question and answering it before he could ask. Because we're dealing with a different reality rather than a different timeline, you won't, and I will say this again, you won't cease to exist even if you're not born in this dimension, as may be the case if we were talking about us being in a home dimension. You, Uzumaki Naruto, are already an anomaly in this dimension. If you were going to be wiped out of existence for being here, it would already have happened. As for this dimension not having a child of prophecy, well, that one's up in the air. For all you know, Jiraiya never even got that prophecy from the toads. Akane told her container in an effort to make the blonde moron stop stressing any more than he already was. And even if he has got that prophecy, he, and hell maybe even the toads themselves, may be misinterpreting it. All Jiraiya knew about it was that he would guide a revolutionary that would bring great change to the ninja world, and this man or woman would be his disciple, correct? It wasn't really a question, and Naruto didn't dare interrupt the demoness now that she was on a roll. The blonde was very scared of what his partner could do to him if he pissed her off. For all Jiraiya knows, the child of prophecy will be his disciple, and he the child's guide, by proxy. Think about it. Years ago he wrote that book, right? You know, the tale of the utterly gutsy shinobi, the one that talks about the vicious cycle of war, conflict and hatred that occupies the ninja world. What if Jiraiya is meant to be the guide of the child of prophecy of this world, if there even is one, by passing down his ideals inside that book, thus becoming the child's guide, while the child themselves becomes the disciple of Jiraiya's ideas and ideals, thus fulfilling those parts of the prophecy, and then goes on to change the ninja world because they have been guided by those ideals their entire life. No one ever thought of that, did they? Akane asked rhetorically before continuing before Naruto had a chance to answer. Of course they didn't. Why? Because no one ever thinks that a prophecy could be fulfilled in any way bar the most obvious. The demoness told her blonde-haired partner, the redhead's voice slowing, losing its more demonic quality. This is why I hate dealing with prophecies, too many damn ways to interpret the thing and no way to know which one is right or what events have to happen in order to make it come true. Akane finished sighing, her voice fully returning to her human tone. The conversation, if it could be called that, actually made Naruto feel a bit better about the fact that he may not be erased from existence in the near future. Still, it wasn't like he didn't have other problems like Konoha. Oh, Naruto was sure he would get away with what he had done, though he admitted that he was probably going to get fined. The blonde doubted that he would be removed as a Jonin sensei though. Saving the Uzumaki heiress from a hostile ninja force that had kidnapped her only days. If that, before her father arrived, more or less ensured that he wouldn't lose his position as a Jonin sensei. And that wasn't even mentioning the fact that the incident had proven that they had traitors inside their shinobi ranks. The Kumo ninja should not have been able to enter Konoha without being detected. More importantly, even if they had entered the legal way, they would have had to know the Anbu patrol routes to get back out again with Kashina with them. They had a rat, and Naruto just hoped that Sarutobi could find who it was quickly. By the way, Akane added, honest curiosity in her voice. Did you make any headway on the Hiraishin or Kamui? The demoness asked. Naruto grimaced at the question. Both were exceptionally powerful techniques, but learning to utilize them was difficult. A little, Naruto replied after a moment. I changed a little of the jutsu shiki I had been using for the Hiraishin, and it did help improve it a little. Unlike before, I can teleport 3 times before the strain of the jutsu begins to tear my body apart. It's an improvement, but not by much. Still, it feels like a step in the right direction. As for the Kamui, yes, I finally got it to work. But it took me 5 minutes to activate the damn thing and another 7 on top of that to actually teleport with it, and even then I only made it 1.5 meters, so at the moment there's no way in hell either of them can be used in battle. Naruto reported to the red head sealed inside his body. The vixen didn't answer immediately. Did you try combining them? Akane questioned. Naruto grunted a yes out. Careful to keep his voice low as it seemed that Kashina had fallen asleep. Yeah, that was a success actually. Naruto admitted after a second. By combining the 2 jutsu together, I can get away from the damage that the Hiraishin does to my body, but it takes 15 minutes to mix the 2 together before I can teleport with it. So the current usability in battle is still a big fat 0. Still, like I said earlier, it's a step in the right direction. Naruto could feel Akane nod inside of him. I see, Rinnegan. The vixen asked. Naruto shook his head in a negative. No, haven't had any time to pull that off recently. I can't afford to try out Shinra Tensei near the village. The same for Bansho Tenon. If I lose control, then, well, I don't even really want to think about that. As for the other paths, Ninjendo I haven't really had a chance to use. Same goes for Shirato, Jigokudo, Gakido and Gedo. I can't use Chikushodo anywhere a Konoha shinobi might see. The last thing I need is for someone to report me summoning an animal with weird eyes, describe it to Gigi, and have Jiraiya figure out that I have the Rinnegan. That would be a whole can of worms on its own. The Uchiha are going to be hard enough to deal with when I finally have to use the Sharingan in battle. Naruto replied, gaining an understanding sigh from Akane. Hell, they couldn't even use too many Kage Bunshin just in case someone managed to figure out who was making all of them and work out that Naruto had the chakra reserves of a Jinchuriki. Which was something neither one wanted until they were ready to reveal it. That plan was coming along, Akane having just finished part of it. Still more needed to be done yet. I see your point, the demoness replied, mulling over the problem. Nothing we can do about that now. Still, maybe during the month break between the Chunin exams second round and the finals we'll be able to get some Rinnegan training in. Akane told her partner. Naruto grunted in response as the gate of Konoha came into view. An Anbu squad already waiting for him. Oh, this was going to be fun. Hopefully, Naruto replied, his eyes still fixed on the Anbu he was approaching. Clans always train their own children before the finals, it's traditional. Hell, I know as a fact that Dad will be here in the next few days to tell Kushina about what almost happened to Uzu, and he'll probably continuing her training in the Uzumaki clan arts. That leaves me free for a month to do my own thing. I'll see if I can't get a mission out of Konoha during that time so that I can get some training done. Naruto replied, already making plans. He would make a kage bunshin before he went to bed tonight to copy some jutsu scrolls for his genin so they could at least have a few jutsu under their belts that were their opponent's direct elemental weakness. Well, that's one reason to be out of the village at any rate. Akane replied, sounding thoughtful and mischievous at the same time, a combination that made Naruto's blood run cold. What do you mean? The blonde shinobi asked, his wariness creeping into his tone, making the nine-tailed vixen chuckle. You remember what my former container's nickname was, do you not, Naruto? Akane questioned, laughter coming into her tone. Naruto stopped short at the odd question. Sure I do. Uzumaki Kashina was also known as the Akai Chishio no Habanero. Naruto answered after a second, still confused at the demoness's line of questioning. Very good, Naruto. Akane praised him in a cheery voice, making Naruto feel like he was missing something terribly obvious. Now next question, Naru, how did my former container get that nickname? Naruto thought about it for a second before answering. Kids made fun of her hair and so she pummeled them into the ground. The blonde answered, wary of what the demoness was getting at but also very confused at her current line of questioning. Okay then, final question, Naru. Akane told him after a second, making Naruto growl at the nickname the nine-tailed vixen had picked out for him. He was not for, damn it. If Uzumaki Kashina did that to people for just making fun of her hair, what do you think that she is going to do to you for withholding information about the possible destruction of her hone from her? The vixen inquired and Naruto's face went bone white. Oh dear sweet Kami, he was getting a mission outside of the village the second that Dad turned up. Give his miniature mother some time to cool off before she tried to kill him. Naruto was lucky his face had regained color as he landed in front of the assembled Anbu. None of which pulled out weapons, but they did tense. Narukami Naruto, one of the masked figures said in a blank tone. You are to come with us to the Hokage regarding your actions of injuring two Chunin-level shinobi of Konohagakure. After this meeting your punishment will be decided upon by the Hokage. However, I must ask before we leave, what are you doing with the Uzumaki heiress and why was she outside of the village? The Anbu inquired. An incredulous look made its way to Naruto's face. They still didn't know Kashina was missing. Heads were going to roll for this. Naruto knew as a fact that the barrier team checked every hour to make sure no intruders had come into the village and that no high-priority members of the village had left it without permission, and as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and the heiress of the Uzumaki clan, Kashina was definitely high priority. That meant they had a traitor in the barrier team. Naruto could only hope that the bastard was still there, because a smart man would have reported that no one had left and then gone home, picked up their stuff and left the village before the next sweep was made and someone figured out they had been lying. I am with Uzumaki Kashina as she was kidnapped earlier tonight by 5 Jonin-level shinobi of Kumogakure. I left the village to get her back. As for harming the Chunin-level ninja, that was done in my haste to catch up to the Kumo ninja and I will accept my punishment for my actions. Could you please lead me to the Hokage Tower now? Naruto finished, gaining a nod from the masked figure who seemed to accept his words, at least for now. Very well, the boar-masked Anbu replied before gesturing to one of his men. Please hand Uzumaki Kashina to my subordinate Bird, he will take her to the hospital for a checkup. Boar told him. Naruto closed his eyes for a second and spread his awareness out. Boar was telling the truth. Kashina would be taken to the hospital by Bird. None of the Anbu around him were with Danzo from what he could tell. That being said, it didn't change that there were traitors around. Sorry Boar, but I can't comply with that order. Naruto stated, his stance relaxed and peaceful, indicating that while he had no desire to fight the Anbu, he wasn't going to comply. Boar tilted his head to the side and signaled the Anbu that had started to go for their weapons to stand down. May I ask why not, Narukami-san? Boar asked. So far the blonde had been cooperative, why the change? My reason is that there has to be a traitor in the barrier team for no one to know that Uzumaki Kashina had left the village. If that is the case, then I don't know where other traitors could be placed. Naruto held up his hand to the Anbu and bowed slightly. I mean no disrespect to you or those under your command, Boar, the blonde continued after a moment. But considering that a traitor could be placed in such a sensitive place as the barrier team, I have to assume that other places are not impossible. That includes the Anbu or hospital staff, either of which could be in place to kill Kashina in the event that Kumo had been unable to secure her. I have no objections to having a medic look over Kashina, but I will not let her out of my sight for now. I would still be more than happy to accompany you to the Hokage Tower, but Uzumaki Kashina will be going with me, and I would be very grateful if you could have Bird over there have a medic of his choosing come and look over Kashina in the Hokage's office. Boar thought about it for a second before nodding. If the blonde was telling the truth, and Boar had no reason to believe that he wasn't, then Naruto's fears were completely understandable. Fair enough, Narukami-san, the Anbu leader stated after a moment and placed his hand on the blonde Jonin's shoulder. Bird, please go and get a medic from the hospital to meet us at Hokage Tower, Boar commanded. Bird nodded and jumped off in the direction of the hospital. While the Anbu leader, the blonde and the red-haired genin disappeared in a puff of smoke heading towards the tower. When they arrived inside, however, the Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was not alone. Standing next to him was a man very familiar to Naruto, a man with red hair and violet blue eyes that were cold and calculating. Armor reminiscent of the Shodaime and Nadaime Hokages covered his body while his mouth was locked into a frown. Yes, standing next to Hiruzen was Uzumaki Dat, current leader of Uzushiogakure no Sato and, perhaps even more importantly at that point in time, father of Uzumaki Kashina. Hiruzen looked at Boar for a second before dismissing him with a wave of his hand. Naruto placed Kashina down on one of the couches inside the Hokage's office. Narukami Naruto, Hiruzen stated, his voice carefully blank, though Naruto had no doubt that the man was angry with him for harming Konoha ninja even if he had a good reason. Earlier tonight you harmed a pair of Chunin-level shinobi of Konohagakure, one of which has several broken ribs and the other a concussion. What are your reasons for these actions? The Sandaime Hokage asked. Dat stayed silent, his eyes still on his daughter's unconscious form. That his Gigi didn't have his pipe on him only reminded Naruto of just how serious this conversation really was. While the fact that his rank hadn't been said when the elderly Sarutobi had started talking meant that if his reasoning wasn't good enough, Naruto was looking at a demotion, at the very least. Not unsurprising considering that attacking a fellow ninja of Konohagakure, or an allied ninja in Naruto's case, was treason. Hokage-sama, my actions, rash though they were done out of concern for the safety of Uzumaki Kashina. Naruto stated. The elderly Hokage's eyes narrowed as did Dat's. Explain, Hiruzen demanded. Naruto nodded before turning to the Uzumaki clan leader. First, Hokage-sama, I must ask that I be allowed to reveal the nature of my earlier mission to Uzumaki-sama. Naruto replied. Hiruzen nodded. As you may already know, Uzumaki-sama, when Team 5 first had a mission outside of the village, an abduction was attempted. Naruto stated, gaining a nod from Dat. 5 days ago at the beginning of the Chunin exams I sensed several shinobi around the exam area that I knew were not supposed to be there. As such I decided to investigate. Upon that investigation I discovered they were part of the same group of shinobi that had attempted to abduct my students and summarily executed them. Naruto stated in the same kind of tone of someone talking about how the weather was that day. After which I had a Kage Bunshin of mine deliver the bodies of most of the shinobi to Hokage-sama along with one live sample to be interrogated and then disposed of. Naruto continued blandly. Dat and Hiruzen's eyes narrowed at this. They knew he was young. Very young, even by shinobi standards, and yet Naruto seemed to have seen enough death that it was commonplace to him. After receiving the dead shinobi and the live sample, Hokage-sama called me into his office and assigned me a mission to watch over Team 5 in order to prevent any more abduction attempts. I killed a lot people that day, Naruto added almost as an afterthought. At any rate, when the second part of the exams had finished I knew that I would not be able to keep an eye on all 3 of my students, so I placed a seal on each of them. Naruto continued, piquing Dat's interest. The seal allows me to sense their general direction, their distance from me, and finally something of their emotional state. After I reported to Hokage-sama and went home I checked the seals, and while Senju Naoki and Uchiha Makoto were fine, Uzumaki Kashina was outside of the village walls and getting further away. Her emotional state at the time was one of fear. I immediately assumed that she had been abducted and chased after her. The reason that the 2 Chunin were harmed was that they attempted to stop me for leaving the village. I did not feel I had time to stop, and as such, instead of explaining the situation to them I merely removed them from my path. Naruto finished looking up at the 2 elderly shinobi. Hiruzen had a grimace on his face. Had Uzumaki Kashina been abducted? The Sandaime Hokage inquired. Yes, Naruto replied, gaining narrowed eyes and gritted teeth from the 2 men. Who dared to abduct my daughter? Dat demanded. Naruto saw no reason not to answer. he was technically an Uzu-Jonin after all. The perpetrators of the abduction were 5 Jonin-level shinobi from Kumogakur no Sato, or at least that was the village whose symbol that they wore. Naruto replied. Hirsuan's stern look didn't fade at hearing these words, if anything the man grew even more angered. What happened to the 5? The elderly Sandaime Hokage asked. They are all dead, Naruto replied, causing the older man to nod. Honestly, Hiruzen hadn't really expected anything less from the blonde Jonin. Still, it did raise an interesting question: exactly how strong was the blonde Uzushiogakure Jonin? He had apparently been able to kill 5 Kumo Jonin in open battle and come out without a scratch. That was impressive no matter how you wanted to slice it. The elderly Sarutobi nodded to the younger Narukami. Very well. If Uzumaki Kashina confirms your story, then your punishment will be reduced to a fine due to extenuating circumstances. This fine will only cover the cost of medical treatment for the 2 Chunin. Sarutobi finished. Naruto nodded. He didn't mind that. Honestly speaking, Naruto was going to offer to pay for the medical treatment of the 2 anyway. May I ask where to find the bodies of the Kumo Jonin? The older man inquired. Naruto nodded in reply. I didn't seal them up and take them with me, so they should be a few kilometers outside the village, if you head north by northwest. Naruto replied. Hiruzen nodded. I could start a war over this, the old man admitted while Dad nodded next to him. I could, but I won't. Instead, I'm going to take Kumo to the cleaners financially and in terms of jutsu. Honestly, by attacking the heiress of the Uzumaki clan, I would like to start a war with Kumo, but that would start a Chin reaction and possibly start the Third Shinobi World War. I would like to avoid that if possible. Naruto and Dad nodded, both looking like they had just swallowed a lemon whole. A familiar-looking Anbu appeared next to Hiruzen wearing an bird mask and spoke quietly into the elderly Hokage's ear. Hiruzen nodded before turning back to the 2 guests in his office. A medic has been brought to the tower by my Anbu and is waiting in the next room to examine Kushina-chan. The Sandaime stated before looking down at his desk and pulling out a piece of paper. Now then, Dad, I am sure you want to be near your daughter, and Naruto-san, I know that you're not going to let your student out of your sight until you are sure she is in good health, so for tonight I will bid you both farewell. Hiruzen stated as Dad leaned down and picked his daughter off of the couch as if she weighed nothing and gave his old friend a nod before leaving the room, an action that was mimicked by Naruto. The 2 Uzumaki walked to the next room in silence and simply watched like hawks as the medic examined the still sleeping redhead that Dad had laid on the bed of the room. Neither was under the wrong impression. If the medic made even the slightest threatening move towards the still sleeping Uzumaki Kashina, it would be a race between the leader of the Uzumaki clan and the blonde Uzushiogakure Jonin to see who killed him first. The medic stood and bowed to the leader of the Uzumaki clan. Your daughter is fine, he assured the giant red-haired man. As far as her physical state goes, Uzumaki Kashina is just in need of some sleep. I honestly couldn't tell you what her mental state is though. The man admitted. Best advice I can give is have her undergo some counseling when she wakes up. The girl needs to talk about this, or else it could end up becoming a serious psychological problem later on. The medic finished bowing to the Uzumaki clan leader again before leaving the room. Dad didn't say anything for a minute. Where did you place the seal on my daughter? The red-haired man inquired, his voice low so as to not wake the sleeping girl up. Middle of her back, Naruto replied, his voice at the same pitch as Dad's. The man nodded and carefully turned the sleeping body of Kashina over in order to get a look at the seal on her back. The man looked at it for a second before nodding to himself and smiling. A very well-made seal, Dad complimented, and Naruto felt a quick surge of pride at being complimented by his grandfather, even if the man didn't know of their relation. It makes me wonder why you continue hide your name from others when you clearly have nothing to be ashamed of. The man continued, making Naruto freeze and look at the older man who simply pulled the covers of the bed back up over his sleeping daughter. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. Naruto replied after a second, but the blonde knew that the damage had already been done. His hesitation had just put the icing on the cake, as it were. The elder Uzumaki snorted in disbelief. Do I look like a fool to you, boy? Dad inquired, his voice holding some genuine humor to it. I'd know your facial structure anywhere. And the way your eyes are shaped are something that almost all Uzumaki clan members have. All I needed to see was your sealing to confirm it, and the way this seal was done was most definitely based on Uzumaki methods. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Dat's face went blank. I don't know whose child you are, but there have not been any exiles from the Uzumaki clan in many years, which means that you are most likely the child of one of our clan members that left Uzu of their own volition. Dat took a deep breath in, as if considering something. Your elements tell me you're an Uzumaki as well, the man continued, causing Naruto's eyes to widen slightly. I will admit that having 3 elemental affinities is extremely rare outside of bloodline clans, but 2 of your elements are quite common in the Uzumaki clan, your Futon and Raiden elements. Naruto didn't know what to say and Dat chuckled a little. Kushina sends letters home every week and her mother and I always get them. She couldn't resist telling us about her completely insane but awesomely cool. Those are her words, not mine, by the way. Sensei that had 3 elemental affinities. Considering that you have a Kaiden affinity as well, I can make an educated guess that you are probably the son of an Uzumaki clan member and someone most likely from Fire Country. Dat finished looking at the blonde. So tell me, how close am I? The older man asked. As I said before, I have no idea what you're talking about. Naruto replied, causing Dat to nod and turn his attention back to his daughter. Then I hope that one day you will trust Kashina or I enough to tell us why you no longer call yourself Uzumaki. It is always nice to find more family after all. The leader of the Uzumaki clan stated. Naruto just nodded slowly. Maybe one day. The blonde agreed under his breath. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.